Hi all. So today we are going to discuss 6.3, that is internal check, internal control, internal audit. Okay. Till now we completed 6.1 and 6.2 and 6.3 internal check, internal control, internal audit. That is a little bit more important in examination point of view. You can expect more marks in this chapter, and also in practical life also, as an auditor, as an employee of the company, internal audit or internal control will be one of the primary requirement for running any company. Okay, it is not only theoretical points, it's a practical one. Many big companies and medium companies should have implemented the internal control and internal audit. So from today class we will understand what is internal check, internal control, internal audit, and we'll discuss all the major portion of this topic, and we will try to cover the 1 mark also. Okay, so 6.3, that is internal check, internal control, internal audit. In this, the first topic is 6.3.1, that is internal check. Okay, so 6.3.1 internal check we will discuss. So what is my plan is, I would like to start the internal control topic first, then we will come to the internal checkpoint. Okay, we will understand what is internal control. We'll cover the internal control portion first, then we will come to the internal check portion. So I will directly go to the page 6.3.2. 6.3.2, you go to the 6.3.2 internal control topic. Okay, internal control topic, there is an heading. After internal check, next topic is internal control. You go to the internal control topic 6.3.2. okay, I will discuss the internal control first, then we will go to the internal check. Okay, all of you please take the 6.3.2 internal control topic. Okay, so before getting into the subject, before getting into the institute material, what is control generally? What is control? So as per you, what is control? So what is the purpose of control? If there is a control, what will happen? If there is no control, then what will happen? Why there is a control for any type of activity? For example, we have a motorbike, we have a scooter. So for a scooter, what type of control we have? What is the purpose of scooter? Why we are having this motorbike or scooter? For the purpose of transportation, correct? So what are the controls to achieve this transportation? Transportation is the purpose, that is the objective. So to transport safely, to transport smoothly, what are the control we have on the motorbike or scooter? So what are the controls? Mechanical control, what are the control you have? You have brake, proper brake for the motorbike or scooter. What is the purpose of brake? We have to put the brake wherever required, otherwise we will have to end up in accident. Okay, to prevent from the accident or to stop to the particular place, we have to put the brake. That is one type of control. Fine. Then what else? You have horn honking. You have an horn facility in a bike. Why? To alert the peoples or to alert the opponent, to alert the co-passenger, co-transporter, we have to use this horn. So that is one type of control, to avoid the accident, or to alert the others, we use this horn. That is also one control. And what else you have as a control while driving the bike? You have a helmet to protect from the accident, to protect your ourselves from the accident. We have to wear a helmet. So that is one type of control. What else you have? What else you have as a control? You have a lot of speed breaker in the road to reduce the speed. That is also one type of control. You have zebra crossing. we have to slow down our vehicle when we are seeing the zebra crossing. That is also one type of control. Correct? So why this much control? Signals, red light, green light, orange. Why? That is also part of control, to prevent from the accident. So why this much control? What is the purpose? Ultimately, why we are doing this many control? What is the objective? We have to transport, we have to travel safely. That is the objective. What else you have? Other things. If there is an accident, how to prevent, how to reduce my loss if there is an accident. I have taken insurance, bike insurance. That is also a control. Corrective control. We will understand later what is preventive control, what is corrective control. So the ultimate aim is to travel smoothly. For this I am putting lot of control in my bike, or a policeman is putting lot of control, and transport, a road department is putting lot of control. Why? What is the purpose? To transport safely without damage or without accident, I have to move to one place to another place. The same logic is applied in companies also. The same logic is applied in companies also. What is the ultimate objective of company? They want to do business effectively. They want to generate more profit. They want to create value addition for the company. Correct? For that control, without control, if they do business, what will happen? If there is no control in the business, what will happen? If there is a control, what will happen? If there is a control in business, they can use their resources productively they can use, and they can have a more output from their resources. That is one purpose of control. If they have a proper control, then they can easily achieve their objective also. So without control mechanism, if they run the business, that will end up in loss, or somewhere in a negative situation or scenario. So that is the purpose of control in the business. Then what type of control? What is the objective? Objective is to run the business effectively, to safeguard the assets of the company, to safeguard the employees of the company, to reduce the errors and frauds in my company, to reduce my losses, to improve the security system. I should have a proper control in my company. If that control is not there, then risk is more. If the risk is more, then automatically company will be end up in damage. That is the link between control versus risk versus outcome. Okay, so the point is, if you have a proper control, then you can run your business smoothly and effectively, to have a control over all the resources that will produce the efficient result. Okay, that is the meaning of control. Then what is internal control? External control. Whether we can control ourselves, or we have to control the other peoples. Is it possible to control ourselves, or we have to control the other peoples? Normally we have to control ourselves, we can't control the others. So that is external, in the sense external force. Internal means inside the company, inside the organization, I should able to control my resources. Then only I can achieve my objective. That is more possible than controlling the external sources. So what I should do? I have to implement the control in my business. Then how to implement the control? Implement the control? Control means what type of control? How can I see? Whether can I see the control? Is it possible to? So the ultimate thing is how to achieve my objective. I have some mission, I have some vision in my company. Mission is a medium term objective, vision is a long term objective. So how to achieve those objective in my company? Unless if I have a proper control in my company, it is impossible to achieve this mission and vision. So how to implement this control in my company? Implementation of control. How to implement? Whether is it tangible or intangible? Normally controls are intangible. What is intangibles? If I want to implement a control, I should have a proper procedures and policies in my company. I should have a proper procedures and policies in my company. So if, for example, HR policies, human resource policies, when I want to recruit the employees in my company, I should have some policy. What are the interview structure, pre-interview, examination, written test, personal interview, background checking, qualification, documentation checking, certificate checking. After doing all these things only, I will recruit one person in my company. Why? Because I have a policy. Why this policy? To bring the control. Why control? If I have a proper control in my company, then only I can achieve the objective. So controls are implemented by having a proper policies and procedures in the company. That is how we have to achieve the controls. Okay, that is why we have to implement the controls. So now we will go through the institute material. I am reading 6.3.2 internal control. On that first para I am going to read. So the thing is, the internal control system comprises all the methods and procedures adapted to assist in achieving the objective of efficient conduct of business, ensure adherence to management policies, safeguarding of assets, prevention and detection of frauds and errors, and checking the accuracy and completeness of the accounting records. Internal check and internal audit are integral part of the overall internal control system. Point is, why I am having internal control in my company? Then only I can achieve my objective of the conduct of business, and also I can follow the policies, also management policies, and I have to safeguard my assets also. If I have an internal control, I can prevent the prevention and detection of frauds and errors. That will be implemented properly if I have an internal control. Okay, so this is the purpose. Actually, this is the purpose. Purpose is to achieve my objective of the company. I have to run my business effectively and efficiently, to safeguard the assets of the company, to prevent and detect the frauds and errors from my company, and to adhere the management policies, and also to have a check the accuracy and completion of the financial transaction. I should have a control. Okay, so that is the purpose. Safeguarding the assets. Assets means what? Fixed assets, current assets, all these type of asset. Someone should not misuse the assets. So if I have a proper control, nobody can misuse. Say for example, cashier. Take cash department or cashier. Cashier department is always having a separate space or separate location, and apart from cashier, no one else can enter that place. Why? Because they have a huge cash in that location, and also the locker key and all kept safely. That is also a type of control. And also in banks and all, if you go bank for checking for a cash deposit purpose, normally cashier will be separated from other employees, and they have a separate counter or separate cell for dealing with the cash. Why? Because it's a fraud prone area or else risk prone area. So there will be some security guard with arms also available in many of the branches. Why? Because that is control. To prevent the frauds, they are having control. That is one example. So now I am going to read after the second para, next small heading is essential of internal control system. I am going to read is essentials of internal control system. Why internal control system? Essentials means need or importance of internal control system. Okay, an efficient internal control should provide the following. If I have an internal control, essentials means essentials of internal control system means how can I have internal control system in my company. Essentials means content of the internal control system. So with this process only I can implement the internal control system. That's what they said there. So first point in that, for proper division of functional responsibility, for proper authorization assignment of duties to perform the record the transaction. So if I have an internal control system, then I have a proper division of functional responsibility. The meaning is organizational structure. Organizational structure, normally you saw the flow chart, right? Company's MD will be there, and below MD you have different division, different unit like production department, marketing department, finance department, accounts department, HR department, legal department, security and safety department, IT department. This many department under the organization. They will separate the department and they will separate the responsibilities of the department. So below this department there will be general manager, assistant manager, manager, senior executive, junior executive, this many portion will be there under each department. Why? Because to assign the responsibilities. Why? Because to sharing the responsibility. So if I have this organizational structure, then I have some control in my company, because one department job cannot be done by another department employee. This department employee cannot do this department employee's job. So that is the control, one of the control. Okay. And second point in that essential of internal control system, second point is for proper authorization and assignment of duties to perform and record the transaction. So if I have a control means why there is an organizational structure, CEO, departments, below departments you have GM below AM, thereafter you have manager, you have senior executive, junior executive, this many position. Why? Because so there will be some authorization level. Authorization is given to only GM. Authorization is given to only department head. What authorization? Payment authorization. He only can sign the payment and all. So that junior executive, senior executive, assistant manager cannot having power to sign the payment document. Okay. Why? Because that is control. Higher position only having eligible to pass the payment to the suppliers. That is one type of control for payment. Okay. Then third point is for adoption of proper practice for adherence with management policies. So if I have a proper internal control, that means management level they will senior level, that is CEO level, chairman level, they will issue management policies that should be followed by all the employees. If I have a control, they will follow these policies. Okay. Next point for thing, then fifth point I'm reading. Fifth point is proper internal check. If I have a proper internal control, then I can do easily internal check. Then we will understand what is internal check later. And next point 6 is proper internal audit system. Proper internal audit system. If I have a proper internal control, then I can do properly internal audit. We will understand what is internal audit also later. So now the internal control meanings, this is what the internal control meaning. Okay. Come to the next heading. Heading is objectives of internal control. Objectives of internal control. Why internal control? What is the purpose of internal control? If I have an internal control, what is the benefit? What are the areas benefited through internal control? Okay. All these things we are going to read. I am going to read all those bulleted points, that Roman points, actually Roman letter points, bold letter points. First point is compliance. If I have a proper internal control, then what will happen? I will comply all the rules and regulations properly. What rules and regulations? Companies Act I will properly comply, Income Tax Act I will properly comply, GST Act I will properly comply. Meaning, if I have an internal control in my company, then it is easy to comply all this act. Okay, that is one objective. So if I comply with this act, what will happen? I will not, if I comply the act, then I need not to pay late fees, I will not to pay interest, I will not pay the penalty to the government. That, so those things is reduced because of the control. What is the next second point number 2? Reliance. So if my company is having a very good control, then as an outsider, as an investor, as a banker, as a lender, I will have more reliance on this company, because they have a very good control, so they will not do any frauds. That is the meaning. Okay. Third point, safeguarding. If I have a control, I can safeguard my assets of the company. Assets company is safeguarded properly. For example, information stored in the computer, data stored in the computer, sensitive information stored in the computer is also a type of asset. That should be, if that is protected by password and other protection mechanism, means then there is a good control. So that why I am protecting the information, it should not be leaked to the third parties. Otherwise they will misuse those information. What is the next thing? Security. Fourth point is security. Security means two type of security. One is physical security and another one is logical security. Security, physical security. What is the security? Access to the company. Without having this biometric or employee ID, I cannot access the electronic door. That is one type of physical security. And also logical security, password protection, login. I am not able to log in the other employee's computer because it's protected by password. So that is type of security. Fifth point, increased efficiency. If I have a very good control, then I can reduce my losses. How can I reduce my losses? If I have a proper control over purchase, of raw material, then I would have purchased the proper quality raw material. If I purchase quality raw material, and damages will be less and production loss will be less, because I have a very good quality of raw material. If I have a very good control in my production department, then also handling or mishandling of material will be less, then that also will give me the reduced loss. Like this, if I have a quality production department, my output is also produced qualitatively. Okay, like that, if I have a proper control, in a different manner my things are increased. If my production is increased, my loss is reduced, my efficiency is increased. Okay, that is the meaning. And what is the next point? 6, evaluation to evaluate the accounting system for proper authorization of transactions. So evaluation is also one type of control. And another thing is review and correction. These are the part of control. Evaluation means I have to evaluate my control properly, whether I have adequate control or not. That means evaluation means I have to test check whether this control is adequate, or I have to increase my control level. And review and correction. Review means whatever the existing control I have to review every year or every period, so that if there is any loopholes in the control, if there is any if there is inadequate control, then I will implement the control again, or else I will increase my control level. Correction, that is called correction. If I have any loopholes or lack of control, then I will recommend additional control in that area. For example, security is not enough in the cashier department, or else cashier is not locking the locker and going to home. He is just simply kept the lock opened and locker opened, and he is going to home. That is insecurity. I reviewed, cashier is not properly closing the locker, so I reviewed and I will correct him. How I will correct? I will give that key, one more key, to the general manager of that company. He will daily come and verify one time whether this cashier is properly locked the door or not. There will be 2 keys. One key is with cashier and another key is with general manager. Like that, I should have 2 dual control over that particular aspect. That is called correction. Okay. What is the next thing? Authorization. Next page I am reading. Authorization means, yes, of course, authorization means what? I cannot give authorization to all. There should be some position, there should be some designation for that. Higher people only I will give high level authorization. So that means that is also a control. So no low category employees cannot transact, or cannot use the bank account, or cannot open the bank statement, or cannot do the IMPC, PS, RTGS, NEFT, NEFT by himself. That authorization is not available with the low level employee. That is available with only higher level employee. So that is authorization. Authorization will not be granted to all the employees. For that also required level of designation. Based on the level of designation only, authorization is granted. Delegation of power. Who can take decision in the company? Who will take decision for the purchase of fixed assets? Can a lower employee can take the decision for the purchase of fixed assets, or higher level delegation of authority can take the decision for the purchase of fixed asset? That is delegation. Who is having power to do what? That is delegation of power. And accurate planning. You should have an accurate planning for internal control. Then also conformity with the accounting principles. Like this, you have many points, you go through yourself. I am reading the next heading. That is advantages of internal control. What is advantages of internal control? If I have an internal control in company, what will happen? Whatever we discussed initially only. I will achieve my objective effectively and efficiently, and I will safeguard the assets of the company, and I will prevent and detect the frauds and errors in my company, and I will check the accuracy of the financials. There will not be any error in the financials, and I will also comply with the management policies. So these are the advantages of the internal control. We will understand here what is mentioned. First point under the advantages of internal control. What is the first point? Efficiency, effectiveness and economy. If I have proper internal control, my losses are reduced, my weakness are reduced, I have a better control in the place. So my efficiency is increased. Efficiency means what? Losses is reduced. Input output ratio, I have a better input output ratio now. Effectiveness means my policies are followed properly. That is effectiveness. Okay. Second point is prevention of error and irregularity. Prevention of error means if I have a very good control and the errors are minimized. That is the meaning. If I have very good control, my errors are minimized. In minimized means what? Accounting entries, journal entries, bill passing, all these things are having better control. That means educated or qualified personnel only I am appointing for this work. Then there will be less error in the journal entry, or else journal entry is passed by lower level employee, but that should be approved by the higher level employee. Then only system will accept the entries. That is also one type of control. Prevention of errors and irregularities. If I have a control, that is also control. Third point, safeguarding from irregularities or misappropriation. Safeguarding the assets or misappropriation. Nobody can do fraud. So because of I am having the proper control in my company. Okay. Employee satisfaction. If the control is there in the place, then employees can do their work in better manner, because system, they are having good system. Control means what? They are having a good system in the place. If there is a good system in the place, good system in the office, they can do their work properly. Okay, the employee satisfaction will be there. Okay, come to the next heading, that is types of internal control system. There are many types of internal control system. Internal control system, as I said, internal control means what? To achieve the objective, to run the business effectively and efficiently, I should have some control. That control is many types. Some of the types is given here. First heading I am reading directly. That is preventive control. Roman 1 under the type of internal control system, preventive control. What is preventive control? What is preventive control? Preventive control is normally, so purpose is by implementing the preventive control, I should avoid the frauds and errors. I should predict the frauds and error, and I should avoid before occurring that event. That is preventive control. Okay. For example, there should not be any fire, or for example, for example, a particular company is producing paper. Paper industry. They are having a huge godown of paper. What will happen? Paper means they should have to protect from the sunlight. They should have a proper godown system. They should have to protect from the fire also, that paper industry, papers. Correct? So, as an auditor, what a preventive control I can suggest them? So all the employees should be properly monitored. They should not have any matchbox or anything while entering the godown, or else electrical leakage, wire leakage. There should not be any current fluctuation in the godown, so that will spark a light, and your papers will get destroyed due to fire. And also there should not be any rain leakage. When there is a rain or something very storm in the country or that particular location, there should not be any leakage into the godown. For that I should have a proper roofing, properly builded godown. Okay. So these are the preventive control. Before occurring the event, I am preventing the incident. That is preventive control. I have a proper security in place. Security is scrutinizing everything. I have a web camera system to monitor. I have a proper roofing to avoid rain damage. Okay, these are the preventive control. Then what is corrective control? Corrective control means what? In future, the incident is occurred already. In future, I should avoid those incident, or else how to get the compensation from the incident. For example, insurance claim is also a kind of corrective control. We can't say corrective control, it's a compensative control. So corrective control means what? There is a huge fire there is a huge fire into the godown of the paper industry. In that paper industries, just now the fire is started. Fire is started just now inside the godown. As a corrective control, what can I do? There should be some sprinkler, water sprinkler inside the godown. So if there is a small fire or just now starting also, there should be some alarm inside the fire alarm inside the godown. When there is an some sort of fire into the godown, suddenly there should be an alarm, and the people should have a protective mechanism or corrective mechanism to calm down the fire. Okay, you got it or not what I am saying? To reduce the fire or to reduce the damage, they should have some alarm system. That is corrective control. So preventive is before occurring, corrective is after occurring. How to reduce or how to reduce or how to avoid in future, that is corrective control. So with this explanation, we will understand what is preventive control and what is corrective control and what is detective control. Okay, so preventive controls, I am reading the preventive controls under the Roman letter 1. Preventive controls are designed to discourage errors or irregularities from occurring itself. I am discouraging, I am preventing from happening that event. Okay, they are proactive control that help to ensure departmental objectives are being met. Examples of preventive controls are segregation of duty. Segregation of duty is what? Purchase department employee cannot work for finance department. Finance department employee cannot work for a purchase department. Why? Because purchase department job is purchase. Finance department job is accounting, payment, accounting and also paying suppliers. So assume purchase department, finance department guy, both are same guy. Both is doing same. One guy is doing two position, two job. One guy is doing two job. He is a purchase department, is working purchase department as well as he is working in sales finance department. What will happen? He will do purchase and he will account. He will make the payment. So he will do some favor to the supplier. So whoever is giving some type of he will get some correction or he will get some commission from the suppliers for making earlier payment, because he is purchasing and he is also working in finance department. One guy is working in two department because there is no segregation of duty. One guy is taking care of two department, and that leads to fraud. How to avoid this fraud? Segregation of duty. Purchase department means you have to work in purchase department only. You should not come to finance department. Finance department means you have to work in finance department. You should not go to the purchase department. That is the meaning. Under the preventive control, next thing is approvals, authorization and verification. What is this approval, authorization? All person in the company, all employees in the company does not having authorization power all the work. Okay, execution, planning, execution and operating level, lower level, middle level, higher level. Three types of level in the company actually. Lower level people means low cadre people. They don't have authorization to do anything. They have to follow their boss. They have to follow the leaders. They have to follow their manager words. They have to follow their manager direction. Okay, meaning they don't have any authorization power. Only the person above his level only can authorization. That is called maker checker policy. Maker checker policy. Dual control. Also it is called dual control. Thing is, one person is doing something that is verified by another person. That is called maker checker. Maker is one person, checker is another person. Then only you have some control in that particular department. That is what approvals, authorization and verification. Okay, like this you study. Come to the next Roman number 2, that is detective control. Detective control means what? Detective control in the sense, while somebody is trying to do something. For example, one guy in purchase department wants to make payment to his favorite vendor. His friend is supplier for the same company. So he wants to make the payment to his friend who is supplier for his company. Friend is calling him and asking him to make the payment first for him. His friend is trying to make the payment to his friend from the company's account. What will happen? Detective control. For example, he is trying to open the bank account of the company, that the purchase department guy, and he wants to make the payment to his friend first, supplier, his friend is supplier. So detective control, when he is trying to open the bank account of the company, there will be some alert will go to the IT department. What alert? Someone who is not authorized for this transaction is trying to access the system, is trying to access the bank account of the company. Alert will go to the IT department. That will also give the message which person is done this, from which computer it is happened, what is the name of the employee. All the details will go to the IT department. IT department will share to the CEO level immediately. So that is detective control. When somebody is trying to do fraud, that time we will detect and alert to the higher level authorities. That is detective control. Okay, so we will understand from here what is detective control. Detective control are designed to find errors or irregularities after they have occurred. Examples of detective control are review of performance, reconciliation, physical inventories, audits. Detective control is during the fraud or after fraud also. Someone would have done the fraud and immediate message will go to the IT department and other department. Then they will alert immediately and they will issue report to the MD level. Okay, one is during the fraud or after the fraud. Both are detective control only. Normally, if it is after fraud, normally auditor will detect the fraud. Okay, if it is during the fraud, IT department they will get some message and it will be communicated to the higher level employee. So review was performance. By reviewing the performance, I will detect who has done what, how they did. Then reconciliation, also by doing reconciliation also I can detect and identify the frauds. Physical inventories, physically verification of stock balance, by that also I can detect. For example, company is saying I have 1 crore stock balance. What is detective control? I will go and check the stock detection, that is called detection, whether 1 crore stock is there or not. If it is not there, then there is a problem. Okay, by audit also I will identify any fraud, that also given here. One is review of performance, reconciliation, physical of inventories and audits. Okay, then the next page, come to the next page. Next page is corrective control. What is corrective control? So first is preventive control and another one is detective control. During the fraud or after fraud is occurred, we have to put some control. Then corrective control is what? The fraud is occurred already. In future we should not expect similar type of fraud. How to avoid in future, or else how to eliminate the existing frauds, how to eliminate the existing lacuna, how to eliminate the existing lack of control. That is corrective control. Control is not there or control is weak, I am suggesting some control. That is, for example, login password should be changed every 7 days once. Every 7 days once login password should be changed. That is one type of corrective control. So that is also one type of corrective control. Or else there is a fraud or something is happened in past, theft is happened in past. How to avoid in future? I will put one more security, or else I will put 2 or more securities in that location. That is corrective control, because I corrected the control, because there is lack of control in past, so I corrected now by implementing more control. That is corrective control. Okay, so corrective control, I am reading. Corrective control targets the correction of errors and irregularities as soon as they are detected. After detection of frauds and errors, next step is correcting the frauds and errors, correcting the lacunas. Okay, steps in internal control. An effective internal, I am reading the next heading. Steps in internal control. An effective internal control system consists of certain important steps: control environment, assessment of risk, control activities, information and communication, monitoring. So if I should have a proper implemental control, I should follow these steps. First is control environment, next is assessment of risk, next control activities, then information and communication, monitoring. First is control environment. What is control environment? I have to understand what is the business nature and what type of control is required for this company, what type of control I have to suggest. That is first step. Then assessment of risk. Thing is, what type of business it is, how much risk this business is having. For example, jewelry shop versus real estate business. Jewelry shop, if you are going, there will be lot of cameras, lot of employees also, because the nature of business little bit risky. Even a small theft will cost more for the company, correct? So risk is different from this business versus real estate business. Real estate business, what they are having? Huge land, real estate land, construction land. Should I keep lot of securities in that land? Because someone will take the land in their hand and they will go and they will run. It is not possible, right? But that is possible in jewelry shop. Anyone can take the gold and they will run away. So we have to see the risk first. Okay, we have to understand the control and we have to see assessment of risk. What type of business, how much risk involved in this business. That is next step. Then control activities. Then based on the risk only I have to implement policies and procedure. If the risk is more, then I have to bring more controls. If the risk is less, then I can implement moderate controls. I need not to implement the high level controls. Okay. And after control activities, information and communication, I have to share this control policies and procedures to the employees. Then only they will understand. Then only they will follow this control mechanism. Okay. Fifth point is monitoring. Once the control is implemented, then I have to monitor whether this control is properly working or not working. Whether this control is properly, adequately implemented, or anything else we need to implement again. That is monitoring. Okay. Then nature and scope of internal control. Nature and scope of internal control. So nature, in the sense, what is the nature? Objective, meaning in nature everything is interlinked. Okay. So what is the objective? Nature. Why internal control? What is the purpose? To bring the efficient, to run my business effectively and efficiently, I need some control. That control is normally intangible. How it is intangible? How can I implement the control? I should have a proper policies and procedures. By adapting those policies and procedures, SOP, standard operating procedure, I am bringing the control in my company. Okay. So that is what given here. I am reading the nature and the scope of internal audit. Under that I am reading the first para of nature. I am going to read the first para of nature. That is, internal control is an essential prerequisite for efficient and effective management of an organization. It is thus primary responsibility of every manager to establish and maintain an adequate system of internal control appropriate to the size and nature of the business of the entity. Okay. Now the question is, who has to implement this internal control? It is an auditor job or a company's job? Company MD job, or it is an auditor job? MD cannot expect auditor to implement internal control. It is not full the job of auditor. It is primary responsibility of the company. They should have a proper framework. They should have a proper policies in the place to bring the control. Okay. That is the thing given here. Next point is XA 265 is basically communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with the governance and management. That is for 1 mark purpose or short note purpose, you please understand, that is related to SA 265 is related to communicating deficiency in internal control to those charged with the governance and management. As an auditor, what we have to do? We have to share, we have to go to the company and we have to see whether there is a control is there or not. If there is no control, then we have to communicate this deficiency to the management. We have to make awareness to the management that you don't have proper control in your company. But implementing the control is not the auditor job. It is the management, company's job. But pointing out whether if there any sufficient internal control or not in the company, or adequate control is there or not in your company, is the job of auditor also. Auditor will check only control is there or not, but he will not go and implement the control itself. Okay, that is not the general job of auditor. So next thing is scope. I am reading SA 265 defines accounting system as a series of tax and records of an entity by which transactions are processed as a means of maintaining financial records. The system of internal control extends beyond those matters which are related to directly functions of accounting and companies control environment and control procedures. What they are trying to say? Control means it is not only accounts. Control means it is not only accounts, accounting entry. Control means it is about business. It is about policies. It is about procedures. It is not only applicable to finance department. It is applicable to all the department. HR department you have control. Production department you have control policies. Safety department you have control policies. Finance department you have control policies. Okay. Why? Because all the department they should have control policies. Then only they can follow those procedures, policies to run the business properly. Okay. That is the impact. So you please read yourself. All are simple thing based on our discussion. You come to the next page. Next page is basic elements of internal control. Content element means content of the internal control and how it is happening. Okay, an effective system of internal control should have the following basic elements. So if I have an internal control properly means what all the things should be there? I should have a financial and organizational plan. I should have a competent personnel. I should have a division of work. I should have a separation of operational responsibility from record keeping. I should have a separation of custody of assets from accounting. I should have authorization. I should have a managerial supervision and review. Okay, we will understand what all this point. First is financial and organizational plan. What is financial and organizational plan? That was what I said. Organizational structure, roles and responsibilities, authorization level. All these things are financial and organization plan. Organization plan means what? Who is eligible for what? Who will do what type of work? MD, what is his role? Next department head, what is his role? GM, what is his role? Below GM, AM, what is his role? Below AM, senior executive, what is his role in the company? Job profile. Okay. Below senior executive, junior executive, what is his role in the company? Job profile of that person. Why should I have this in place? Then only I can bring the control. Why? Because I should know the job profile to monitor the peoples. Who is assigned for what? Who will do what type of work? Okay, that is financial and organization plan. If I have this flow properly, if I have this workflow chart properly, then there is no confusion in the company. Some work is assigned for someone means they have to execute that work properly. Okay, so that is the meaning. Come to the next thing, competent personnel. Of course, if I have a proper control in place, I should have a qualified person, experienced person for that particular task or work. Finance, CFO of the company, normally a chartered accountant or cost accountant, company secretary is a good qualification for having that designation in the company. Okay, I can't appoint a biology student or any biology student or any other non-commerce student for that high position. And also competent means experience also. One is qualification, another one is experience. Both should be there. Simple qualification will not be enough. The qualified person should have a proper experience also. That is called competent personnel for that particular work. Then division of work. Division of work means what? In finance department, who will book the purchase entries? Who will book the purchase entries? In finance department, who will make the payment entries? Both should not be the same person. Purchase entries different persons, same payment entry different person. And who will process the payment? Who will approve the payment? That should be a different person. So for purchase department, one person. Purchase entry booking, one person. Finance payment entry booking, one person. And payment approving, one person. That is called division of work. Work is divided between the employees so that there will not be any fraud in the company. Okay. So what is the next one? Separation of operational responsibility from record keeping. Stores keeping person should not pass the journal entry of the company. Stores keeping person should keep only stores record. He should not come to the finance team. He should not come to the accounting team. He should be part of production department. You got it or not? Stores keeping means stores persons cannot do the journal entry for accounts. Accounts person cannot do journal entry for stores. That is separation of operational responsibility from record keeping. Record keeping, finance, accounts department should be separated from operational department. Production entry, production department person should not pass the journal entry. Okay, production department is an operational department. Accounts department, finance department is an record keeping department. Okay, then separation of custody of assets from accounting. Again, stores department, custody of asset means what? Stock, closing stock, inventories, raw material, all these things are assets. Custodian, storekeeper, he should not pass the journal entry for closing stock. He should not pass the journal entry for valuation of closing stock. You got it or not? Because his job is only physical verification, count in the numbers he has to maintain, not in value. Valuation is normally done by the accounts department. Okay, then authorization, as I said, everybody is not authorized to do all the work. Payment, more than 1 lakh eligible only GM, less than 1 lakh eligible only AM, up to 10,000 can be done by senior executive. More than 10 lakh it is eligible, it is authorized only by CFO. More than 20 lakh it is authorized only by MD. Like that authorization is given. If it is above that amount, the below person cannot do the authorization. Only that level designated person can be eligible to authorize the payment. That is one example. Okay, and one more point, managerial supervision. Then come to the next heading, that is important of internal control. Why important? Why? If I have an internal control, what will happen? On that, what is the first point is attainment of goal and objective. Attainment of goal and objective. If I have an internal control in my company, I can achieve my objective, because if I have a proper control, my business is going smoothly, efficiently, effectively, so that it will be easy to achieve the objective. Okay, that is one point. And if I have a proper internal control, next point is, after attainment of goal and objective, next point is reliable financial information. If I have a very good internal control, then I, as an outsider, as an external person, I will rely on this company more. I will say this company is having good control, then there will be less frauds, less errors, so I am relying more on this company. Okay, third point is compliance with the law and regulation. If I have a good control, then I will comply all the rules and regulations properly. GST monthly return, GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, GSTR 2, I will file within the time. Annual return within the timeline I will file. Income tax return I will file within the timeline. MCA, statutory audit, annual return. Okay, INC 22 form, all those forms I will file within the time, because I have very good control. I have a good peoples in my company, competent peoples in my company. They will file everything. They will make the tax payment within the timeline correctly. That is the meaning. And the next benefit, fourth benefit, efficient and effective operations. Efficiently, resources are used efficiently. I am getting more profit, more value from the process. Input output ratio is better in my company, because I have a very good control. Then prevention of fraud and error. If I have a good control, my frauds are reduced, because I have a different checks on my company, so that nobody can do frauds easily. Okay, limitation of internal control. What is the limitation of internal control? Generally we don't have much limitation of internal control actually, because internal control means it is good only, there is no much limitation, but we will see when there will be limitation normally. First point is organizational structure. Deficiency in organizational structure make internal control ineffective. If there is a deficiency in my organizational structure itself, then my internal control is will not work properly. What deficiency? Production department, marketing department, finance department, HR department, there is a deficiency in the department, means head is not departmental head is not good. He is having all the control, but he is not working properly, means that department itself will get failure. They will not perform properly. And size of the organization, that is the next one. Size of the organization means I am doing very small business, my turnover itself less than 1 crore. I cannot expect all this control, correct? I will have only 1 or 2 employees, 3 to 4 employees in my company. They will do all the job. They will be dealing with purchase, they will be dealing with accounts, they will be dealing with finance, they will be dealing with HR, They will be dealing with the rules and regulation, law, everything one employee, because size of the organization is small. So control will not be there. If it is a large company, then I can appoint different people for different work. Size of the organization is also matter. Okay. So for small companies, we can't bring more controls actually. Next one is unusual transaction. Internal control position normally fall to keep a check on unusual transaction. So internal control means predicted. Predicted means what? Standard. I am creating standard and we have to follow that standard. I am creating the procedure and we have to follow the procedure. But if anything is happening new, this case is not happened in past. This fraud is totally different from the past. This person is very intelligent. Employee is very intelligent. He is trying in a new way this fraud and he is trying to fake the company. That is not covered under the internal control, because internal control is already predicted. This is the fraud, this is the control. This is the error, this is the control. If there is a new error, then there is no control. That is what they are saying. Costly. Next point is costly. Of course, you have to internal control means you should have a costly. You have to appoint lot of people, internal auditor, consultant, okay, systems, SAP, SAP, ERP package. All these things are required for implementing the controls. Policies, procedures we have to write. All these things required intelligence. Intelligence required. It is an expensive thing. Okay. Abuse of power. Fifth point is abuse of power. Because delegation of authority is there. Only GM can take decision. GM can abuse his power and he can misuse the employees also. He will threaten the employees also. Because performance rating is given by GM. He will give the rating for the employees every year. So abuse of power might happen. So like this, you go through the limitation of internal control. Next thing, responsibility of management versus auditor. Responsibility of manager versus auditor. What is this responsibility of management versus auditor? So as I said initially, internal control, implementation of internal control is the responsibility of manager. Is the responsibility of management or auditor? Internal control, implementation of internal control is the responsibility of management, not auditor. Auditor is not responsible to implement internal control. He is a third party. Okay, that is what primary responsibility. That's what I am going to read. Responsibility of management versus auditor. Primary responsibility of management. So what they are trying to say, the primary responsibility of maintaining an adequate accounting system and uncovering various internal control rests with the management. The responsibility of closely monitoring system to ensure that in the place so as to facilitate the objective of installing it also rests with the management. Thing is implementation and monitoring. Okay, all these things are normally company's job, not auditor's job. You can't expect, you can't say to the auditor, sir, I am started new company, you please implement the control. It is not the job of auditor to implement the controls. It is the one management job. You can expect 1 mark or even short notes. Primary responsibility of management. Then what is auditor responsibility? To safeguard is, I am going to read auditor responsibility now. Auditor responsibility to safeguard his own interest. The auditor might resort to examine the evaluation of internal control exist on the organization. If formulates an audit plan only after satisfying himself that such internal controls are adequate and in consonance with the requirements of the business. The auditor should bring the weakness of the internal control system, if any, to the management notice through a letter of weakness of management letter. What is the auditor jobs then? Management is responsible for implementing the control, but what is the auditor job? Auditor job, every year he will come for audit. While visiting the company, he has to check whether there is an internal control in this company or not. That is the job of auditor. If there is an internal control, whether it is there sufficiently or not. That is also job of auditor. If it is sufficiently, then how auditor will satisfy there is a sufficient internal control? He has to test check the controls. He has to test check the controls to ensure that there is an internal control properly, or whether there is a less internal control or proper internal control. He has to report, he has to communicate to the management that you have an internal control, whether it is sufficient or insufficient, deficiency, anything he has to report to the management. It is not the job of auditor to implement, but he will check whether it is implemented or not. If it is implemented, correctly implemented, if it is not, if it is implemented but deficiency is there, that also he will point out. If it is not at all implemented, that also he will point out in his report. Okay, that is the job of the auditor. So then what you called this activity? What you call this activity? The auditor job is not implementation of internal control. Okay, he will monitor, he will review, he will do workings, he will test check the internal control, and he will give his opinion on the internal control to the management. Means what is the name of this job? What is the name of this job? Normally this is called internal audit. To test check or to test the controls implemented by the company, by the auditor. Okay, control implemented, procedures, policies implemented by the company is effectively working or not, that is audited by the auditor. That is normally internal audit. Okay, so we will discuss next chapters. We will discuss internal check, internal audit. What is the next one? Evaluation of internal control by the auditor. Evaluation of internal control by the auditor. That is nothing but internal audit. We will understand internal audit in depth, but before that we will understand what is evaluation of internal control by the auditor. So as an auditor, I am going for an audit for a company. So before getting into the audit, first thing what I will do is I will understand the business first. What business you are doing? As a businessman, we have to think. As a businessman, we have to think about the company. What business you are doing? What type of business it is? Then we have to go through their controls, whether there is a control in your company or not. Then if it is there, whether you have a sufficiently internal control or not, or else any lack of control in your company. This is the evaluation of internal control by the auditor. So under that first point I am going to rate evaluation of internal control by the auditor. Under that first point I am going to read. First thing is understanding the system. Business, that is understanding your business is the system. How I will understand? I have to interact with the peoples. I have to discuss with the employees. HR department, finance department, accounts department, production department, marketing department, security department, IT department, all the department I will interact, and I will collect the policies, procedures from them. Then I will decide whether there is a control or not control, whether this company is having control or they don't have control. Okay, that's what said here. Understanding the system, that is the point number A. Under that first point, this can be done in the following ways. That is first point, discussion with the personnel at various level of organization. Second point refers to organization, procedure, manual, information flow channels, etc. So I will discuss with the employee of the company and I will understand whether there is a control in your company or not. Control means how I will understand. I will ask lot of questions. Whether you have do you have make a checker policy, whether you have a password protection policy, whether you have a proper access card to your employees. Like that different question I will ask to understand the internal control thing. Okay, so next thing is next point, next page is testing of internal control. Next point is testing of internal control. So first I have to understand their control. First I have to understand their business, then I have to understand their control, whether the control is there or not. Next step is, if there is a control, then I have to test whether this control is properly implemented or not. For example, authorization. I said authorization 1 lakh, more than 1 lakh now only GM can authorize. How can I check whether this control is properly followed by this company or not? I will do sample testing. I will take all the payments more than 1 lakh and I will check whether all these payments are authorized by only GM or anyone else. If some payments are authorized by junior executive or senior executive, then they violated the control. They violated the policies and procedures. Then there is a lack of control. I have to report. For that I have to do sample testing I have to do. Sample testing means I have to audit on this based on the transaction. I have to audit the transaction based on the samples to identify whether the control is implemented effectively or not. That is the objective. Okay. Testing of internal control. On that first point, procedural test. Procedural test means what? So procedural test, two types of test I am doing. Procedural test means what? As I said, what is the procedure? More than 1 lakh na GM has to approve. That is procedure. Whether this procedure is followed or not in this company. Then I will take all the payments and I will check whether procedure is followed or not. All the payment is approved by the GM. Yes, procedure is followed. Procedure test, it is okay. Next one is examination in depth. Examination is in depth is little bit different. In previous class we studied this as a compliance procedure and substantive procedure. In previous class we studied this as a compliance procedure and substantive procedure, correct? Here it is given as procedural test and examination in depth. It is similar to substantive procedure. Examination in depth is similar to substantive procedure. That means I am checking in depth every transaction. How I will check? I am going to check the P2P transaction. I am going to check the P2P. P2P means what? Procurement to payment process. Procurement to payment process. I am going to check overall procurement to payment process. What is procurement to payment process? What is procurement? It's a purchase. Okay, I will start from purchase. My auditing in depth I will check. I will start from the purchase department. Okay, this is your purchase department. What is your purchase policy? So if I want to make a purchase, I have to get the quotation from my suppliers. How many quotations? More than 3 quotations. I will check whether you obtained more than 3 quotation or not in your company. Okay, you obtained more than 3 quotation. Correct. Then you have to select the least one. Least one means L1. L1 means, for example, A, B, C, three quotations. A is giving price 100 rupees, B is giving 105 rupees, C is giving 110 rupees. So least is how much? A. L1 only I have to choose. Whether this company should opted L1 or not, that also I will check. Okay, they opted L1. So then what is the next step? Purchase order. Within 10 days we have to issue purchase order. Whether we issued within 10 days purchase order or not, that is the next step. Yes, they issued within 10 days purchase order. Then within 1 week, within 2 weeks, supplier has to deliver the goods to the company's godown. Whether the supplier has sent the godown to the company or not within 14 days, I have to check. I have to go to the factory and I have to check the stock register. Yeah, purchase is made within 14 days. Yes, we received the goods within 40 days. Then what is the next step? What is the next step? GRN, goods receipt note. I have to put in my entry, goods received note entry, because I received the goods. Before receiving the goods, I have to check the quality. Then I have to go to the quality department whether all the stock is verified by the quality department or not. Yes, they verified. Then GRN is made. Once the GRN is made, purchase entry I have to make. Purchase department, not purchase department. Accounts department make the purchase entry. Once the purchase entry is made, within 60 days I have to make the payment to the supplier. Then I have to check the payment department whether the supplier, we made the payment to supplier within 60 days or not. This is P2P process, procurement to payment process. In depth means I am checking all the transaction in depth, not simply checking whether they complied or not. Each and every transaction properly in depth I will check. Okay, that is the meaning of examination in depth. Okay, so techniques for evaluation of internal control system. What is the technique available with the auditor to evaluate the internal control system? Evaluation of internal control system means what? My job is not implementation. My job is evaluation. My job is monitoring. My job is reporting to the management whether do you have a sufficient internal control or not. That is the job of auditor. Okay. So evaluation means I am evaluating whether you have an internal control, but whether it is effectively implemented or not, whether it is effectively working or not. That is evaluation. How I will evaluate? Narrative record. I am going to read the techniques for evaluation of internal control system. Under the techniques you have narrative record, checklist, flowchart, internal control questionnaire. Narrative record means what? It is a complete and exact description of the system. It is appropriate in circumstances where a formal control system is lacking, like the case of small business. Gaps in the control system are difficult to identify using a narrative record. Narrative record means policies and procedures. They are written in the document. Everything is written in the document. I have to read those documents and I have to see whether it is properly implemented or not. This is for applicable for big companies. In small companies, they don't have narrative record and all. They don't write anything and they won't keep it as a policies and procedures normally. Next thing is checklist. Checklist is prepared by the auditor to test check the samples. For example, whether this company is followed properly Income Tax Act or not. One of the example, how can I do checklist? For cash payment more than 10,000. it is disallowed under the Income Tax Act. Cash payment more than 10,000 is disallowed under the Income Tax Act. As an auditor, what I will do, test check, I will take all the cash payment. I will check whether is there any more than 10,000 cash payment. If it is more than 10,000, why it is paid, what is the reason, is there any income tax violation? That is checklist. I will write checklist in my thing. Check, I have to write all the provisions, income tax provision as a checklist, and I have to check whether any violation from this provision. Okay. Then flow chart. By flow chart also, what is flow chart? Normally company's organizational chart, CEO, MD, below MD, 5 departments: production, marketing, sales, finance, security, IT. Below this department, GM, each department is having one GM. Below GM you have this many AMs. Below AM you have senior executives. Below senior executive you have a junior executive. All these things are flow chart. By going through this flow chart, whether this is properly implemented in the company or not, I will check. Okay. This flow chart is applicable for production flow also, production process also. How to start the production, how to execute the production, how to operate the what is the production process flow, and when it is started and when it is going to stop, what is the time taken for each process and each activity, whether the same is implemented in the company or not, whether they are following their production pattern as per the flow chart or not. That also I will check. I will test check from the production starting stage to from the production finishing stage, what is the time they have taken, what is their raw material input output ratio, loss per unit, how much, all the things is already there in flow chart. That I will compare by test checking. Okay, whether the control is properly implemented or not. Next one is internal control questionnaire. Internal control questionnaire is an unlimited document actually. Unlimited document means I will ask lot of questions, whatever coming in mind I will ask from the employee. Okay, because it is unlimited. You will ask whatever doubts in your mind. By that you will understand whether they have a sufficient control or not. Okay, checklist is prepared already. What is there in the checklist, you have to check that items only. But internal control system is like, internal control questionnaire is like unlimited one. Whatever the doubts, whatever the points coming in your mind, you have to ask the client and you have to clarify with the client. That is the difference between internal control questionnaire and checklist. We will go through all those points. So with this internal control aspect alone, the internal control aspect point alone, we have discussed a major portion for internal control. In our next class we will discuss the internal check and internal auditing. Okay, internal auditing and rest of the topic we will discuss in next class, and 1 mark also we will try to cover in the next class. Okay, thank you.